Welcome to the 24.1 8-hour podcast, where better sleep starts with better understanding.
Today we are doing a really crucial deep dive.
We're getting into the source material covering normal aging and sleep.
And this is a big one.
It is. I mean, we hear it all the time, right? This popular idea that, tossing and turning is just
A normal part of getting older.
Exactly. And that eventually you just have to accept it. But our mission today is to really confront that definition of normal. We're going to use some detailed research, like from the big Sleep Heart Health Study, or SHHS,
Right.
to pinpoint the objective difference between sleep changes that are truly biological features of aging.
And the really severe sleep problems caused by conditions you can actually treat.
Yes. So the goal for you is simple. We want you to walk away with a really clear understanding of what sleep changes are genuinely age-dependent.
And which ones are actually a red flag, something to talk to your doctor about.
That distinction is just so vital.
It really is, because the integrity of our sleep as we get older is challenged by a lot of factors.
Like what?
Well, it's physiological aging happening at the system level, at the cellular level,
Yeah.
but it's also these external conditions like sleep-disordered breathing.
Ah.
And that's why defining normal aging of sleep gets so complicated. Researchers use the word normal in two ways.
How so?
Descriptively, so what's common or, represented in the older population.
Okay, what you see a lot.
And clinically, which means the complete absence of disease. And those two definitions, they don't always line up.
Especially because your age in years doesn't always match your biological age.
Exactly. That's a great setup.
So before we dive into all that data, let's just establish the key language we'll need. We've pulled out 6 core terms from the material that are going to guide this whole conversation.
Perfect.
First up, we have chronologic age. That's a simple one.
Yeah, that's just your age in years, your calendar age.
Right. Second is physiologic age, or biologic age.
And this is about how well your body functions compared to that calendar age.
Yeah.
You could be, say, 50, but have the physiology of a 40-year-old or a 60-year-old.
Got it. Third, sleep architecture.
That's the blueprint of your night. It's the structure of your sleep, measured by how much time you spend in all the different stages.
Okay, and one of those key stages is number 4. SWS, slow wave sleep, which is also called N3 sleep.
That's the good stuff, the deepest, most physically restorative stage of non-REM sleep.
Fifth is sleep efficiency, also a pretty simple one.
Yeah, it's just the percentage time you spend actually asleep while you're in bed.
And finally, number 6, sleep disordered breathing, SDB.
This is a big one. It's an umbrella term for conditions, and the most famous one is sleep apnea, that cause your breathing to get disrupted while you sleep.
Okay, so those 6 terms, that's the lens for this whole discussion.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the heart of the confusion, the complexity of defining normal sleep. This is that semantic hurdle you mentioned. Is normal what's common, or is it what's healthy?
Exactly. If 40% of older people in his study have a certain sleep pattern, well, descriptively, that's normal.
It's representative.
But if that same pattern is a precursor to, say, hypertension or diabetes, it isn't clinically normal. It's not healthy.
And that distinction is crucial when you're thinking about your own sleep.
Absolutely.
And that takes us right back to the difference between chronological and physiological age. The sources point out that the decline in deep sleep, SWS, it can happen in men at a calendar age that's way earlier than other age-related declines.
Which is fascinating, isn't it? It suggests that SWS loss might reflect your underlying physiologic age, how healthy your systems actually are, better than your birthday does.
Wow.
And then there's the subjective side. If an older person only gets a 75% sleep efficiency, they might just accept that.
They think, well, I'm older, this is normal for me.
Exactly. But objectively, that same low efficiency would get diagnosed as insomnia in a younger person.
And it's interesting how older people report problems, too.
Yeah.
Even though having trouble staying asleep is the symptom they experience most often, objectively. The research says they're more likely to feel like they have a sleep problem if they have difficulty falling asleep, what we call sleep latency.
So what's the takeaway here for our listeners?
I think it's that you shouldn't just dismiss your own sleep problems by saying, oh, I'm just getting older.
Right.
Your feelings of poor sleep have to be taken seriously, especially since an objective measure, like your deep sleep decline, might reflect a very different and maybe more problematic physiological age.
So understanding this whole tangle of calendar age versus body age it's a lot.
It is, but it really hits home when we look at the actual structure of sleep itself.
Okay, so we've just covered how complex defining normal aging is, blending objective and subjective measures.
Mm-hmm. And that complexity is clearest when we look at sleep architecture. So, next, let's unpack the biggest structural changes, focusing on that deep sleep and some really surprising gender differences.
Okay, let's talk about sleep architecture changes and the gender divide in deep sleep, N3. So if age affects sleep structure, are all the stages hit equally?
That's a great question. And generally, no, we see sleep efficiency going down all the way up to age 90 and beyond.
Okay.
But, and this is surprising, most of the major age-related changes in the overall architecture, like total sleep time and the decline in REM sleep, they actually happen before age 60.
Before 60, wow.
Yeah. And this is where the research from the Sleep Heart Health study gets really specific. They looked at N3, that deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep.
And what do they find?
The data showed just enormous, profound differences between genders.
Really?
In men, there was a really marked decline in N3 as they age. It just drops off.
Okay, that's what you might expect.
But for women, the sources say there was, and I'm quoting here, no appreciable decline with aging.
None.
None. It's a massive difference.
That is a huge distinction. Are there other gender-specific effects?
Yeah, a couple. The age-related increases in stage 1 sleep, that really light, fragmented, transitional sleep, that was also mostly confined to men. Meanwhile, REM sleep, the dreaming stage, showed a modest decline, but that was seen in both men and women.
That's fascinating. Does the research give any hints as to why? Like, why would women hold on to their deep sleep so much better?
The sources don't really state a definitive cause, but the finding itself is just so key.
So what's the so what here?
For you, the listener, it's this. When you're looking at your own sleep stages, maybe from a tracker or a sleep study, you have to recognize that these age-related changes in deep sleep are highly sex-specific.
So what's a normal decline for a 70-year-old man is completely different from what's normal for a 70-year-old woman.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established that deep sleep decline is really strong, especially for men. But you also said that age affects the continuity of sleep, which leads to that feeling of constant interruptions.
It does, and this brings us to what might be the biggest finding in our sources.
Okay, so we've just covered how deep sleep decline is strong, especially for men, and how other stages change. But the continuity of sleep is just as important as the depth.
Absolutely. This connects because that lack of continuity, those frequent awakenings, they have a primary driver that isn't what most people think it is. So, next, let's dive into brief arousals, fragmentation, and what truly causes it.
All right, let's get into fragmentation, arousals, and the role of sleep-disordered breathing.
When we talk about fragmentation, what are we talking about beyond, just waking up to go to the bathroom?
It's more subtle than that. We're talking about brief arousals, which are a measure of the microarchitecture of your sleep. Think of them as little internal shifts, these flares in brain activity.
And they get more common with age?
They do.
Yeah.
Healthy older people definitely wake up more often than younger people. But the good news is they generally don't have any more trouble falling back to sleep.
Okay, but why are those arousals happening? That seems like the critical piece. It is. And this is the massive insight from the data. The single most powerful predictor of how many of these brief arousals you have per hour is the respiratory disturbance index, or RDI.
Which is a measure of what, again?
It's a measure of sleep-disordered breathing, SDB.
So breathing issues.
Breathing issues. And let me just repeat this statistic because it should completely change how we think about aging and fragmented sleep.
Okay.
The sources show that the RDI predicts 10 times more variance in arousals than age does.
10 times.
And 5 times more variance than gender. Age isn't even in the same league as breathing when it comes to breaking up your sleep.
That finding is... That's actionable knowledge right there.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, we should also note that other things in the microarchitecture, like K-complexes and spindle density...
The things that reflect the brain's deep maintenance work.
Exactly. Those also decrease with age. But the RDI, the breathing, that is the driver of fragmentation.
So what does this mean for our listener?
It means that if you're experiencing frequent nighttime awakenings or just poor sleep quality, the odds are incredibly high that the fragmentation is being driven by SDB, no matter your age or gender.
It just underscores how crucial it is to get screened for breathing issues, even if you think your symptoms are mild.
Absolutely, even if you don't think you snore that loudly.
Okay, so we've established that the quality and continuity of sleep is driven so heavily by SDB. But aging also seems to affect when we want to sleep, right? This idea that it shifts our internal clock.
It does. So we've covered that fragmentation is driven by SDD regardless of age.
Right, and that affects sleep quality. But this connects because aging also seems to shift our sleep timing. So next, let's discuss that common idea of a circadian phase advance and why the research suggests that explanation might be a bit misleading.
Let's do it. So circadian rhythms, is the phase advance real? Most people assume a phase advance just means older people become morning people, right?
Yeah, they go to bed earlier, they wake up earlier than younger people, and you definitely see that pattern in surveys.
You do. But the question is the internal clock actually shifting forward?
And the research says,
Well, studies looking at fundamental things, like the precise timing of melatonin peaks, they might not actually support this simple explanation.
so it's not the clock itself, what is it then?
This is where we have to bring in a key concept: homeostatic pressure.
Okay, sleep pressure.
Exactly. The earlier bedtimes might be happening because of homeostatic factors, the pressure to sleep, rather than purely circadian factors, which is the clock.
Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. Think of your homeostatic pressure like a battery. As you get older, your body's ability to hold a continuous charge all through the night, it seems to go down.
So the battery drains faster.
Kind of. It's not that the clock is wrong, it's that the ability to stay powered up is just diminished. Studies show older subjects wake up more frequently throughout the entire night, no matter their circadian phase.
Ah, so it's not just at the end of the night.
Right. They wake up more frequently, even early in the night, which actually runs counter to the phase advanced idea. That would predict they'd wake up more late in the sleep period.
Okay, so what's the so what here? What does this mean for me?
It means that the earlier sleep times you might be experiencing might be less about your internal clock screaming, "wake up now," and more about your body just having a reduced ability to maintain continuous solid sleep once you're out. The frequent interruptions just reduce the pressure to stay asleep late into the morning.
I see. It's a pressure problem, not a timing problem.
Exactly. So we've covered how this apparent shift in sleep timing is really influenced by this reduced homeostatic pressure for consolidated sleep.
And that reduction in continuous nighttime sleep, it often translates directly into needing to catch up during the day, right?
It does. This is the perfect bridge because that lack of consolidated sleep at night leads to daytime naps. So next, let's examine the very complex role of napping. Is it a harmless habit or is it a critical health signal?
All right, that brings us to napping harmless habit or health signal. From a practical standpoint, the real question is, should you embrace naps or avoid them as you age?
And our sources are really clear that napping is complicated. It has what they call disparate outcomes.
Meaning it could be both good and bad.
Yes, it can be a protective event and a risk factor, and it all depends on the context of your overall sleep pattern.
Okay, let's start with the risks. When is napping a bad sign?
Napping has been associated with things like falls, with early cognitive decline, and with an increased mortality risk. But specifically when that nap is combined with long nighttime sleep, and the sources define that as over 9 hours.
So if you're sleeping 10 hours a night and you still need a nap, that's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
But there is a protective side.
Okay, what's the good news?
Naps might be protective for cardiovascular events, and they definitely improve how you function during the day. And critically, studies suggest that if you take into account that someone had short nighttime sleep, then the daytime naps they took were actually protective for their mortality risk.
Ah, so it's all about the context.
It's all about the context. The so what is that naps are not automatically good or bad. It's about the whole picture.
So if you nap because you had a short night of sleep, that nap is probably helping you out.
It could be protective, yes, helping to counteract that deficit. But if you nap after you've already gotten plenty of long nighttime sleep, it could be a signal of an underlying disease or an increased mortality risk. You have to look at the whole 24-hour period.
That makes sense. Okay, now that we've covered the structural, the fragmentational, and the rhythmic changes, let's hit some of those common misunderstandings about sleep and aging that the sources can correct for us.
Let's do it. This is where we translate the data into really clear takeaways.
Okay, misunderstanding number one. The primary symptom of insomnia in old age is difficulty staying asleep. The myth is that waking up in the middle of the night is the main thing people complain about.
And while that difficulty staying asleep, sleep maintenance, is really common, the correction here is subtle, but it's important. Older people are reported to be more likely to perceive themselves as having a sleep problem if they have difficulty falling asleep, the sleep latency.
So it's about their perception of the problem, not just the raw symptom. That's key for a doctor to know.
Exactly. Okay, misunderstanding number 2. Total sleep duration naturally decreases with age. We always hear that you need less sleep as you get older.
Right, but that's just not what the big data shows. The largest compilation of human sleep duration ever published, we're talking over 1 million subjects, shows that reported sleep durations generally increase, not decrease, with age.
So what does that mean?
Well, it suggests that while the quality of sleep might be going down, the biological need for it might not be. Or it could just be that people are spending more time in bed trying to get that sleep. Either way, the idea that the total time you clock just shrinks is not supported.
Got it. And misunderstanding number 3. Poor sleep in old age is primarily a quality of life issue. The myth is that, it's annoying, but it rarely causes serious health problems.
And that is just fundamentally wrong. The correction is so important. Poor sleep is associated with really significant adverse health outcomes.
Like why?
Increased risk for all-cause mortality, hypertension, diabetes, falls, and it's a confirmed risk factor for incident depression.
So it's far more than just comfort. It has serious, measurable health consequences.
Absolutely.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground today, really trying to separate what's truly normal aging from what's a treatable issue.
We have. So let's boil it down. Here are 5 core takeaways that kind of summarize our whole deep dive.
Let's hear them.
First, the decline in deep sleep, N3, with age is highly distinct by gender.
Yeah.
Men show a significantly greater decrease than women, who show basically no appreciable decline.
That one's still amazing to me.
Second, the single strongest predictor of sleep fragmentation, all those frequent arousals, is sleep-disordered breathing, SDB. Age is secondary to how you breathe at night.
Okay.
Third, that common observation of earlier bedtimes, the phase advance, is likely driven more by a reduced homeostatic pressure for continuous sleep than by an actual real shift in the circadian clock.
The battery draining, not the clock being wrong.
Exactly. Fourth, the risk factors for poor sleep are numerous. Talked about chronic pain, psychiatric conditions, and that really powerful issue of nocturia or nighttime urination.
Right.
And fifth, napping is a double-edged sword. It can be protective if you're coming off a short night's sleep, but it can be a clear risk marker if you're already getting long nighttime sleep, which the source is defined as over 9 hours.
That's a fantastic summary.
The deepest question this whole dive raises, and the one we want to leave you to think about, is this. If all these age-related changes in sleep are just secondary things, just a consequence of getting older, then poor sleep is just something you manage.
Right, you just deal with it.
But what if there are potential influences on the aging process itself, as some of the basic science suggests?
Then what?
Then could treating these normal age-related sleep changes actually modify the fundamental process of aging?
That's a huge thought.
It is. It's a provocative idea for future research and something to keep in mind the next time you think about your sleep.
Thank you for listening to the 24.18 Hour podcast. We hope you sleep well and dream easy.